What's up, guys? It's Toad. I am back with you, back home. Thanks for all of you who showed up in Central Florida, came to Bohemian Grove. It was a fun time, man. A lot of good stuff going on. A fun event, a wild event, a crazy event in some ways. If you haven't checked out the Tower Gang podcast from the event, it is up on the channels. I don't think I put it up on Spotify or YouTube yet. We got to get that going. It's up on Rumble. So that's actually, it is specifically only on Rumble so far, but it is up on the Tower Gang Rumble. So you can check that out. It was a fun time. I wish that I paid more attention to the betting because there were a couple of spots that I think I missed. The main one that I'm kind of angry about, because I did look at NHL and NBA and nothing really jumped out at me those last couple of days. So I still haven't even played in the NBA until today. I am going to do it. But one spot that I totally missed and I should have played was the Knicks against the Pacers, because the Knicks are the better team. I mean, they're the only one of those two teams that has a defense, and it was revenge for last year. Indiana was the team that eliminated the Knicks. We know the Knicks were just totally devastated by injury at that point, so that was a big revenge spot for the Knicks there to play against the team that eliminated them the last time they saw them. So I wish that I caught that and played that one. That was a good spot to play the Knicks. They did win and cover in that one, but what can you do? I missed out on that one. I had a good weekend overall, though. I mean, it was looking like it might have been. It was looking like it might go better than it did, but it went 5-2. I think I was 3-0 in college football. That was nice. Or 4-0 actually, because I played a Friday night game on BC and then had a 3-0 Saturday. So I was 4-0 in college football. NFL starting on Thursday. I got the Thursday right. I got Washington right yesterday. So I was 2-0 and then lost Dallas by a half point. But Dallas, I mean, they had no business covering that, but they teased me at the end and thought they might backdoor it at the end there. So that was when I wish I played the opener at +7, which was like the week earlier, because it looked like it was a spot where I was going to want to play them anyway. I'm mad at myself for not taking that earlier number there, because that was the difference between a win and a loss. Fuck that. And the other loss that I had mixed in there was the New York Yankees losing on a walk-off grand slam after they were winning in game one. They were winning 2-1 in the 8th or 9th inning, and then they were winning 3-2 in the 10th inning. So it was with 2 outs. So it was a situation where the Yankees were like 90-something% to win that one as a slight underdog. So my losses, I mean, the Dallas one, I guess I didn't have any business getting that one, but the Yankees one certainly was one that probably should have gone my way. Although I'm not that mad about it because I hate the Yankees. So I don't know what else I could say about that. But the weekend I was good overall. So going all the way back to, I guess, Thursday with the Rams. What am I on? That means I'm on a 6-2 run then over that span. 7-2. I don't know what it is. Something like that. But I'm on a nice run. Let's keep it going, man. I got 2 plays tonight, and I am actually going to play the NFL game because I'm a maniac. I decided that it's a spot where I do want to do it, and I am going to have a play in NBA. But I'm going to talk about World Series first. The World Series resumes. This is Game 3. We're going to New York for this one. First 2 games are in L.A. L.A. took them both. Kind of got lucky to do so in the first game. The second game was basically all Dodgers. Shohei Ohtani got injured towards the end of Game 2, sliding into second. He dislocated his shoulder, but that's an injury where it's like you kind of just put it back in, take some injections for the pain, and you keep going. So it seems like Ohtani is going to play. I don't know how that's going to affect, like, if it's going to affect his swinging. I know he doesn't pitch right now. I don't know if it was his throwing arm or not. Because he does, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I don't know if it's going to, I mean, the main thing you have to worry about in this one is how is it going to affect his hitting. I don't know if it will. So that remains to be seen. We will see. Looking at what's going on with the odds here, the Yankees are down from -142 to -140. 69% of the tickets coming in on the Yankees, so still getting the public action, despite the fact that they're 0-2 in the series so far. But I think it's the public thinking, well, the Dodgers have a really bad starting pitcher in this game who hasn't been good for years at this point. It's back in New York, and New York basically, they're essentially in a must-win because if they don't get this, they're down 3-0, and we all know the only team ever to come back from that was the Red Sox against the Yankees in the 2004 ALCS. So basically a must-win for the Yankees. So it does make sense that all these people are coming in on the Yankees. 88% of the cash also on the Yankees. I don't disagree with the Yankees side either, because I think that extra motivation is there. They need to win this game pretty badly. And I think Walker Buehler is the worst and less trustworthy of these two pitchers, as I'll run down in a second. Hopefully I can get all this done quickly here. But I would, if I was going to play the side on this, I agree with the Yankees because they're basically on the brink, and I think they at least have a slight edge in the starting pitching department. We don't know if Ohtani is going to be affected by the injury at all. So Yankees, as far as their hitting is concerned, I think they probably have a little bit of an edge in the hitting, but their top hitters really haven't shown up in the playoffs either. Like, some of them haven't. So that's been an issue for the Yankees, especially Judge. And now there's something going on with him testing positive for performance-enhancing drugs or something. So I don't know what is going on over there, but I still give the Yankees a slight edge with the hitting and with the bullpen, and probably a slight edge in the starting pitching matchup in this one too. But I don't want to put my money on Clark Schmidt either. But Walker Buehler, this guy, he's been struggling, man. I mean, since a couple years ago, he basically had a full season where he didn't pitch. Then he came back and he just wasn't the same, man. He just has not been the same for a few years now, where he was a pretty good pitcher back in the day, and that same Walker Buehler just has not shown up anymore. Buehler has just, he's been absent for a long time now. It's been Walker Buehler's year off, basically, or year off plus. This year obviously wasn't very good. 5.38 ERA, 1.55 whip. Not great. He's pitched twice in the playoffs, both on the road. Had one really bad start at San Diego, giving up 6 earned runs and only not striking out anybody in that game. Some major red flags in that game. But then he did better against the Mets, shutting them out for 4 innings. Still walked 2 guys, though, and allowed 3 hits. Not great, but struck out 6. So he did look a little bit better in that one. So maybe he was finding something, or maybe he's still not that good and just happened to have a decent performance that was more of an outlier. It's hard to say, but he does have a couple of games under his belt in the postseason now. And up against the Yankees, he hasn't been that bad in his career in a 51 at-bat sample size, although it's pretty focused on a select group out of the Yankees hitters. He's actually never faced Judge before, and Garrett Cole is thrown in there, and Luke Weaver, so they're 0 for 3 off of him. So if you take that out, it starts looking a little bit less great. But you even take them out, we're looking at the Yankees being 13 for 48 off of him instead of 13 for 51. 11 strikeouts, 4 walks. Although one of those strikeouts was Garrett Cole, though. But still, if you leave those pitchers in there, which I hate that. I wish they took them out, man. I hate that ESPN includes the pitcher's hitting stats against the opposing pitcher. Like, why would they do that? But that 13 for 51 overall, Buehler holds him to a 255 batting average. So even if you take the pitchers out, it's not that much different. And it has held him to a 721 OPS, which isn't that high either. So Buehler actually hasn't been that bad against the Yankees. Clark Schmidt, on the other hand, has been the better of the 2 pitchers this season. 2.85 ERA, 1.18 whip, after he was not as good the season prior, and he seems to be maybe taking a step up, even though he's not that young anymore, but he had a good season this season. In the playoffs, maybe not as great. They've kind of limited his pitching to somewhere in the neighborhood of 75 pitches per game. He's gone 4 2/3 innings in both outings, allowed 2 earned runs in both outings, only with a 6.3 strikeout walk ratio. So he's been good enough to keep them in games, but not excellent. I still don't think overall he's really an excellent pitcher, but up against the Yankees, up against the Dodgers, most of their hitters have not seen him before. Ohtani has. The 3 guys who've seen him before are only 2 for 13 off him. Ohtani does have a home run off him. 6.0 strikeout walk ratio. He's held him to a 154 average and 538 OPS. So neither starting pitcher actually has bad numbers against these opposing lineups, and some of the opposing lineups are not really familiar with the opposing hitters, so that should help the pitchers a little bit in this one, but I'm still not sure I totally buy into that. I think we're looking at these 2 pitchers, and they both have vulnerabilities, man, so I would actually, the way that I would look to play this game would be to play the over more than anything else. I mean, you're looking at a game in Yankee Stadium, which is more of a hitter's park. even though both of these pitchers do have that unfamiliarity with the opposing lineups, and they don't have horrible numbers against the opposing lineups, I still think that they could both be gotten to in this game. And Schmidt, I mean, up until this season, his numbers hadn't been that good. Bueller has just been way off for the last season plus, and has never really been the same pitcher after having that year off and whatever. He's just morphed into something way worse. So I like the over in this one more than the side. It's up from 8.5. Well, 8.5 juice to the over, with a little bit more juice on the over. 82% of the tickets and 87% of the cash. That's the way I look at the Major League Baseball game here. NHL, I think I'm going to have a long rundown on that one and on the NFL game. Let's make it quicker on NHL. There were just a couple of spots I was going to point out. Florida, Buffalo. I think Florida's kind of in a bad spot here. So I would look towards maybe firing. If you were going to play any of these games, I would look to maybe taking a shot on Buffalo on the money line in this one. I haven't done it. I'm probably not going to do it, but Florida is very public. They're up from minus 145 to minus 147. 90% of tickets on the 99% of the cash. Probably not accurate, but I think what we do know for sure is that Florida's going to be public here. This looks like a tricky spot to me for Florida because they're coming off a couple of wins. Granted, beating the Islanders in their last game isn't really a huge game, and they used Knight in that game, so it is probably going to be Bobrovsky coming into this one, so their better goalie is probably going to be in net for this one, as they're going to have a little bit of a break after this, so they will probably have him in net again. The last game for Florida looked like it could potentially be a letdown spot because they had beaten the Rangers the game before that. So Florida, coming off a big win over the Rangers, one of the top teams in the East, didn't suffer the letdown and beat New York with their backup goalie in net. So Florida playing another good game. Now they're playing a third straight road game. Looks a little bit tricky. Like I said, not the best spot for them. They may overlook this Buffalo team that's just not really that great. And up next, they have a few days off, but they have to go to Finland. I don't know what this is, but there's this weird trip here where Florida, Dallas, I don't know if any other teams are included in this, but they are playing these stupid sports leagues in the U.S., man. They need to become international. They need to globalize. So they have these random games in the middle of the season out in Europe. This one's going to be in Finland. I mean, at least Finland is a country that does like hockey. Whereas, do we think that the UK and Germany are totally into the NFL, into NFL football? The Jaguars, I'm not so sure about that. But at least Finland does like hockey. So they're going to get Florida, Dallas. So at least they get a couple of good teams out there. But Florida could be looking ahead to that. I mean, that's a weird situation where it's going to be these weird spotlight games in Europe. So it is possible Florida overlooks Buffalo in this game. So that's the way I would look. Buffalo has actually been playing well as of late. 3 wins in a row, including beating that Dallas team. They beat Chicago. I mean, not much to really take away from that. Chicago not playing very well. Beating Detroit. I mean, Detroit's been an okay team, so that win doesn't look that bad either. As far as Buffalo's goaltending situation, though, you would rather have them have Luukkonen in net. He is their better goaltender, but they have one day off here, and it looks like it might be a spot where they might rest him in favor of Levi, who was the worst goalie, although maybe they won't because this is a big game against Florida, but I'm not so sure. So you'll have to see who is going to be in net for Buffalo. If you want to fire on Buffalo there, I'd prefer Luukkonen be in net for them, and they've won the last 3 games with him in net. So that would be my thoughts on that game. Buffalo, I don't think they're in a letdown spot or anything like that. I just think they may be in like a momentum continuing spot, and they're not going to overlook the NHL champs from last year coming into their house. Edmonton, I think, is also in kind of a tricky spot. They're in a back-to-back. They're in a third game in 4 days, having one day off before yesterday, and they're playing in 3 different cities in those 4 days. Having one at home against Pittsburgh, shutting them out. Then they went to Detroit, won in overtime yesterday. So they played a tough game in overtime yesterday, and now they have to go on the road to Columbus, which, are they going to overlook Columbus? I mean, maybe, even though Nashville doesn't have a good record. Nashville isn't a bad team, and they started showing signs of life there. Columbus may be the worst team in hockey. It's either, well, San Jose probably is, but Columbus probably maybe the second worst. So I don't know if Edmonton's really going to have their full focus on Columbus on a back-to-back. Edmonton did use Picard yesterday in net, though, so that means they're basically they're starting a goalie out of the two. Their number one goalie is probably going to be back in net here in Skinner because they have a couple of days off after this. So you may see Skinner play the next couple of games here. So he probably will play in this game. So that may help Edmonton a little bit. It may help mitigate the rest a little bit, where at least they're going to play a rested goalie in this game. At least it appears, because Picard played last night. But still, it's a third game in 4 nights on a back-to-back. Their skaters could be tired in this one. Columbus, I think they'll be focused, man, with the Western Conference champs coming into their house. They're coming off kind of a tough game, though, an overtime game where they almost were able to beat Nashville, but still it is Nashville. So I don't know what you could take away from that. Tarasov has been in net for them the last 4 games. He's probably the better of their two goalies. I don't think it matters which goalie you get from Columbus, though. Neither of them are that good. I mean, I guess maybe you slightly prefer Tarasov because all of their wins this season have been with him in net, so he has been the better of their two goalies over Merzlikins. I don't know how to pronounce that guy's name, so I don't know which one of them is going to be in net. So again, keep an eye on what the goaltending, what the projected goaltender matchups are going to be in these games. But Columbus at least does have a day off here, and they probably will be focused with the Edmonton Oilers coming into their house. Edmonton a huge favorite, but they're down from -260 to -223. So this line is crashing. 89% of the tickets on Edmonton, but only 62% of the cash. Does look like some big money coming in and playing the Columbus side. You could come in and play one of those underdog puck lines. I mean, this is in the price range where it may make sense to do so. I mentioned that with Columbus in one of the games last week too, so it may make sense to do that there. And then I will just mention quickly Winnipeg. This is a crazy looking line, man. I mean, this looks way too easy to take Winnipeg here, with this line indicating that Winnipeg isn't even the better of these two teams. Winnipeg is 8-0. So you have the one remaining undefeated team and the one remaining winless team both playing today, with San Jose playing Utah today and Winnipeg playing Toronto. This line looks crazy, dude. Winnipeg down from -123 to -111, 90% of the tickets, 95% of the cash. What is going on with this Winnipeg game here? I don't actually entirely know. I don't know what to say about this, because Winnipeg has been winning every single game. They are in a kind of precarious spot here because they're returning home from a road trip, and you know that's never the best spot. It's not a long road trip that kind of kept them in the central, like, U.S. and Canada. Well, it took them out to the Pacific, I guess, for one game against Seattle, but it was only a 3-game road trip. It didn't take them that far geographically. They swept the road trip. It is still return home, though, so those return home spots always some, like, return home distractions come into play where you have to return back to home life and whatever. So it is still a bit of a distracted spot. So I do agree with the Toronto side in this one. And we may be looking at the spot where Winnipeg does get caught and they take their first loss. I don't think it's strong enough, but that line does look very suspect. They are returning home from a road trip. Toronto's not a bad team, though, so it's not necessarily a team that Winnipeg's just going to totally overlook. Toronto's coming off a tough game too, man, where they went to Boston, one of those original 6 rivalries there, and that's also playoff revenge because Boston eliminated Toronto last year. So that was a step-up game for Toronto 2 days ago, and they lost, and now they're going from Boston to Winnipeg. So this doesn't look easy for Toronto either, man. Looks like a difficult spot there for both teams. Toronto almost able to exact revenge there against Boston. I do slightly lean to the Toronto side still, but I would probably actually play the over in this one if I was going to play it. It looks like we've seen a little bit of movement up on the over, with the juice coming in a little bit more on the over 6 here, even though Winnipeg does play slower paced games a lot of times and play good defense. But that is the way that I would look in that one. I don't know what the goaltending matchup is going to be in that one either. Looking at the schedule quickly here, Hellebuck should be back in net. Hellebuck for the Jets here, because he actually didn't play in their previous game. It was Comrie. Comrie. I don't like that guy. Oh, no, that's not good. So it should be their best goalie back in net. Hellebuck, one of the best goalies in the NHL. So that gives you a little bit of hesitation as well on the over and on fading Winnipeg there, because he is a really good goaltender. But slight leans to the over and to the Toronto side in that one. Toronto looks like I don't know who they're going to go with in net here, because Stolarz has gotten most of their starts, but he played in that game against Boston, so they may go with Wall, but they've also used Hildeby a bit, and Wall is not really a Wall in net there, so I don't know what Toronto's going to do in net there, but Either way you look at it, they're probably going to have the inferior goalie here because, I mean, Hellebuck is maybe the best goalie in the NHL. Let's move over to NBA, where I do have one play here, and let me see here. Actually, wait a minute. I think I skipped handicapping a couple of games here. Hold on. I got to look at these games real quickly and get my thoughts in order here with Boston. I mean, Boston just had an almost escape against Detroit, so we could be looking at maybe a play on Boston in this one. I don't know. Milwaukee is on a back-to-back and third game in 4 nights, all in different cities, so this spot does look like it sets up better for Boston in this one. I'm not going to play it. I mean, the Bucks are still not going to be unfocused necessarily, but the Celtics are up from 7.5 to 10 now. So if you like the Celtics, that line's gotten a bit away from you as well. 54% of tickets, 76% of the cash. So the line move does look like it is in agreement with my quick situational look there on the Celtics. I don't know how I missed both these games. I know I did look at Detroit, Miami, though. And Detroit, I would say Detroit because they're coming off almost being able to beat the Celtics. They're probably not in the best spot either. I mean, they almost beat the world champs, man. That was a close game. Detroit there. They played well against Boston. Coming off of that, I think it's going to be difficult for them to totally get back up off the mat. In Miami, they're off to not the greatest start at 1-1, and they didn't even play that well against Charlotte in their most recent game. So I lean to Miami in that one, but they're down from 9 to 8. The market looks completely in disagreement with that. 64% of the tickets on Miami and 53% of the cash on Detroit. I don't know what gives in that one, but like I just said, Pistons seem like they're in a very difficult spot after a very close call, almost beating the best team in the NBA, and Miami looks like they're in a bit of a better spot to show up here after an easier game against Charlotte and not really having to do a whole lot in that game. Knicks Cleveland, to me, also looks like probably would be a spot where maybe leaning towards the Knicks makes sense in this one, even though I don't want to do it because the Knicks are coming out off that huge revenge blowout win over Indiana. So they could be maybe feeling a little bit confident here. But Cleveland and the Knicks are both teams that made it to whatever it was, the Eastern Conference semifinals last year. So there's no revenge motive in this one. But the Knicks, maybe slightly the better team here, but it looks like Cleveland's off to a nice start at 3-0. But who did they beat? Toronto, Detroit, Washington? Yeah, okay. Not exactly a gauntlet of opponents so far. So Cleveland is going to have to step up in class here. This is going to be their biggest, it's going to be their best opponent they've faced so far, having to go to the New York Knicks. Not going to be the easiest spot for them, man. And the Knicks, like I said, they played Boston and Indiana so far. Indiana's not good defensively, but they're still a pretty elite offense at the very least. So lean would be to the Knicks in that one. I think the records are a little bit misleading in that one. You're getting the Knicks at a nice cheap price here, down from 4.5 to 3 with juice. 69% of the tickets and 99% of the cash. If you do like the Knicks, I like the Knicks side in that one. That's the way that I lean in that one, the way that I look there. I don't think there's a whole lot to say about many of these other games. I mean, Lakers, Suns, I think that one's a quick revenge spot, maybe. Is it? I don't even know. For the Phoenix Suns, I think the Suns lost to the Lakers. The Lakers are undefeated so far. Yeah, the Suns lost at LA on Friday. So they may have a little bit of a quick revenge opportunity here, but they're down from 4.5 to 3.5. They do have 73% of the cash on them with 57% of the tickets. Over on the other side on this Laker team, man. And this Lakers team, yeah, it's been impressive what they've done so far. They've won every game so far, so you can't knock them. And beating Phoenix is a pretty good team. I mean, they beat Minnesota, also a good team. Sacramento, also a good team. So they haven't played any weaklings so far. So it is impressive what they've done so far. But at some point, I think they have to take a little bit of a step back because this is still AD and LeBron, man. I mean, they're playing well, but these guys are aging superstars, man. So at some point, some fatigue has got to set in. And maybe, to start the season, they're going to be in their, less fatigued mode at the very least. But this looks like an okay spot to me for Phoenix. So I do lean that way as well if you're going to look at this game. I'm not going to play it, especially because Phoenix just got a nice win over the Western Conference champs from last year, Dallas. So they're coming off a big win, but they're not going to overlook LA. It's more of a matter of, are they going to be tired out after playing a run of a couple of games that are both big? But the Lakers are coming off an even more extended run of games that are all step-up games against big opponents. So I do like the Suns in that one. Let's get to what I'm actually playing. I'm going to play the Orlando Magic, even though I know, according to pregame here, it looks like the line was at 3.5 at some point. I never saw it at 3.5 anywhere. I saw it like maybe in like the 5 range, and it's up to 6.5. It's going through the 6.5 towards 7. So it looks like the money is pouring in on Orlando here. And this looks like a suspect line, man, because everybody remembers last year the Pacers were one of the best offenses in the NBA. They made it to the conference finals. They played decently competitively against my Boston Celtics. So everybody remembers that, man. The public loves these high-scoring teams. I don't know where the public's going to come in on this one, but like I said, this line looks high because Orlando was a first-round exit in the playoffs last year, and people not paying much attention to Orlando. Pacers, the talk was all about the Pacers, man, with that offense. A lot of the same guys are here for both teams. Very similar teams this year, but the thing about the Pacers, they don't play good defense, man. The Pacers, they play really good offense. They score a ton. But the Magic, this is a young core of players, man, and they can score as well. The Pacers do have the better offense, but the Magic are not that far behind the Pacers as far as what they can do offensively. The Magic are not bad offensively, and the Magic are the better defensive team here, man. So the Magic are the better balanced team, the better all-around team here, and the odds makers are telling you that. The Magic expected to take a little bit of another move forward this season. Pacers, I was knocking them last year because their defense is a huge weakness, and I don't see any reason that that's going to change here, man. So that's the issue. The Magic, I agree. They are actually the better team here. I don't think that this price is actually too much to pay in this game. It is a little bit of a crazier price on Orlando because the odds makers are factoring in the spot, but I still agree with it, and it is a bad spot for Indiana. Excuse me, because it is a third game in 4 days, man, and it is a fourth game in 6 days, all in different cities. So this is a tough run of games for Indiana here, man. They played at Detroit. They had to play tougher against Detroit than they probably expected. Then they had that game where the Knicks exacted revenge on them. Knicks are a team that beat you up on defense a lot of times. Tough game there. They took the loss. Then they played against Philadelphia. Overtime game. I mean, that looks maybe impressive. Hey, they took Philadelphia to overtime, but this Philadelphia team is a shell right now, dude. They don't have Joel Embiid. You remember how bad Philadelphia was without Embiid last year? He is a huge difference maker. He's out for Philadelphia. I think they're missing some other players too. So that does not look impressive to me at all. And that was yesterday. And look who Indiana has up next, though. The Boston Celtics. That's big-time revenge, man, because that's the Celtics team that eliminated them last year. That huge Eastern Conference Finals series. So will Indiana overlook Orlando, even though Orlando is a pretty good Eastern Conference team? It was a playoff team last year. This is a situation where they actually might, because it's a back-to-back and they play this run of so many games in so many different cities. This is not an easy thing to do for Indiana. And if they're going to have more focus on one of these games than the other, I think they want Boston, man. And that's a big revenge spot. So it is possible this is a spot where they get caught in Orlando here. And Orlando's off to a 2-1 start, so they haven't looked like world beaters, but that I think helps this play because Orlando actually at least had yesterday off. So they're also playing 4 games in 6 days, but they haven't traveled as much. They've only gone as far as Memphis. They've been in the state of Florida. Other than that, they're in the state of Florida here. And that was just a weird spot, man. I think they just got caught. They went to Memphis. They lost. Not great that they went out there and lost to Memphis. But now I think this is going to be a bounce-back spot for them. I don't consider this to be a road trip return when you just take a trip for one game to go somewhere. You don't have a good game, and then you come back. I think they're going to be focused on the team that made it further than they did. One of the teams that made it further than they did in the playoffs last year. I like this, man. I like the spot for Orlando for all those reasons, even though the rest is being factored into the line a little bit here. I think some of these other aspects of this may not be, and that rest I still think is pretty big. So Orlando minus 6.5 is how I'm going to kick off the NBA season. I want to get some wins here, man. And like I said, I decided to play in the NFL, New York Giants plus 6.5, or I think it's plus 6 everywhere now. But I decided to actually play this game after I thought about it more. I mentioned that I lean that way on my show because I always talk about the Monday night game. I said it wasn't a play for me. It was not at the time, but I just think there are too many aspects to this game. Thinking about it and going more depth into this handicap, I agree. I think the Giants are a play here, man. I mean, Steelers are public, 82% of the tickets, 74% of the cash. The public loves the Steelers. What's not to like? I mean, look at what the Steelers did in their most recent game. They were on prime time, and everybody saw the Steelers obliterate the New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers, even though the Jets are a laughing stock right now and can't win a game. But the public still saw Pittsburgh just annihilate them. But did they annihilate them? I'm not ready to say that they quite did, even though, yeah, they outgained them. But Pittsburgh had the benefit of those two really crucial turnovers for the Jets. I mean, in this game, the Jets were winning the game 15-6, and they were driving again right before halftime, looking like they were going to go up at least 18-6 because they were in Steeler territory before halftime. What happened? Aaron Rodgers threw an interception, and the Steelers turned that into points right before the half, giving them all the momentum, and the Jets were just completely thrown off by that. Couldn't do anything in the second half, and Pittsburgh turned it into what looked like a total blowout. Although on the stat sheet, it was not as much of a blowout. And this is what the public remembers. Hey, Russell Wilson, he was in there for the first time since being pulled in the first game of the season. Oh, Russell Wilson looked awesome. Did he, though? 16 for 29? That doesn't look great. Not a good completion percentage. 264 yards looks fine, especially for a first game. But that was on a lot of shorter passes, man. He was not really totally like shredding the defense in this game from what I could see when he was in there. So I think he did have there were a couple of plays where there was a lot of yardage after the catch. So a lot of that was going on. A couple of those completions had long yardage for that reason. He played fine, but I'm not ready to anoint Russell Wilson as being like totally back as like the Super Bowl Russell Wilson. I don't think we're there right now. And I know the Jets defense is good, but still, I mean, I don't know. I think the Jets just kind of unraveled in that game, and it was a situation that just snowballed. So that's what the public remembers. And they remember last they saw the Giants. The Giants only scored 3 points and got wrecked by the Philadelphia Eagles, who hadn't been looking that good. Giants, across the last two games, and this one was a primetime game 2 weeks ago against Cincinnati, the public saw them only score 7 in that primetime game against Cincinnati and then 3 against Philadelphia. So they've only scored 10 points in their last two games. So who in their right mind is going to want to play on this Giants team? That would be me, because I think this is a game between two offenses these two offenses are not that good, and these two defenses are the better units on the field. So you're looking at a game that's probably going to be a defensive matchup. The odds makers are telling you what they think about this total here, down from 38 to 36.5. Public pretty much always coming in on overs, even if it is Giants Steelers, still public coming in on the over. It's Russell Wilson, man. He's so back. Yeah, okay. 71% of the tickets and 83% of the cash on the over here. I obviously don't totally buy that. I would not want to find myself on a public over on a Monday night game. That's just me. The total's too low to actually come in and play an under, in my opinion, though. It's too risky, but because you could have a turnover or something that just throws this game completely off as far as the total is concerned. But the odds makers are telling you they expect this to be a low-scoring game. And in a low total like this, the points mean more, man. And you're looking at the Steelers up to 6 in this game. I mean, or 6.5 it was at one point. That's value, man, on the Giants. When you're getting 6.5, whatever it is, in a game with a total this low, there's a little bit more value on each one of those points. So taking a big spread like that on an underdog in a game that's supposed to be low scoring between two defensive teams, sign me up for that. I'm going to play on the team that's getting points. So that's what I'm doing here as well with the Giants. As far as the Steelers are concerned, I don't think it's a great spot. Like I already pointed out, that game, even though the Jets haven't been playing well, that was still home prime time against Aaron Rodgers. That's a big game. And then I know this is a Monday night game, prime time, but the Steelers get a lot of primetime games, man. If they're going to overlook one of them, it's probably going to be a game against a Giants team that just doesn't look very good and that just gets made fun of half the time because their offense is so bad. And Pittsburgh may just be looking ahead, man, because they're going to be looking into this bye. They have a bye up next, and then they face Washington, Baltimore. So they have some bigger games up next, man. This is a spot where they could not totally be focused on the Giants here, man, and be more focused on getting a little bit healthier, which they're going to need to do because, hey, I'm a little bit of a segue here. Yay for me before I have to run. Pittsburgh's offensive line is pretty beat up right now, man. So they're going to want this bye that's upcoming. They have 3 offensive line injuries right now, I think. So that's not going to really help them. I mentioned that last week with Russell Wilson being in there. I know he used to be a mobile quarterback, but I don't think that helps as much, man. Justin Fields is younger, so he's the guy that is more mobile now and can run around more. And with your offensive line pretty injured right now, I don't think Russell Wilson is necessarily the guy you want in there. Like I said, he's 30 whatever years old, now 35. He's not going to be able to escape as much of the pressure. And this is a Giants team that blitzes a lot, man. So they could give Russell Wilson some problems here, man. This Giants defense has been being overlooked all season for the most part. One thing about the Giants is their defense is not bad, and they should be able to hold this Pittsburgh offense that isn't particularly strong down a bit in this game and keep themselves in this game with defensive play. So I like that. And then on the other side, and I'd have to look at Russell Wilson, how he did against pressure last week. I'm not so sure, but the Giants, they're gonna send pressure at you. So there is that, and yeah, I mean that should help the Giants a bit on the defensive side of things. Then as far as the offense is concerned, the Giants I think are also better against the pass than the run. But the Steelers, I mean, they may be able to take advantage of that a little bit with Harris there. Harris hasn't been that great, but he's looked good against the weaker rushing attacks, and he did well last week, I think so. But that also means that the Steelers may be keeping this on the ground a lot on offense, man, which when they're doing that, that's going to keep this game lower scoring as well if the Steelers are going to be pounding the rock more. So that helps as far as the low-scoring game is concerned as well, so I don't mind that. On the Giants side of things, yeah, the Giants are probably going to be passing the ball more because they don't really have a rushing attack with Barkley gone. Singletary has not really been the answer. I don't even know if he's healthy. I don't know what the deal is. I think Malik Neighbors is back after missing a couple of games. So Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones is going to have his big rookie weapon there in Daniel Jones. So that should help him a little bit. So we're going to see some passing out of the Giants. And even though this Pittsburgh defense is very good, yeah, the Steelers have an elite pass rush. We know this. T.J. Watt, he might be better than J.J. Watt. He's insane. I don't know what is in the water in Wisconsin or what PEDs these guys are being fed or their parents are feeding these guys, this Watt family. I don't know what's going on there, but T.J. Watt is insane. We all know this. But the Giants, here's the thing, man, about the Giants. Daboll has been able to come up with game plans that suit the Giants' offense for situations like this. He did it last year in a similar spot against Buffalo, even though I know Buffalo doesn't blitz as much. I think they were blitzing more last year with different defensive schemes than they are this year. So that was a game where it looked like they were going to be under a lot of pressure. Buffalo was a huge double-digit favorite, and the Giants almost won that game. They held Buffalo totally in check in the game, and the Giants' offense didn't do much of anything, but they still were able to almost win the game, and their offense was able to at least maintain possession to such an extent that they were able to have these long, because what they were doing is they were having Jones do these quick drop backs, like 2-3-step drops, get the ball out quick. Daboll knows how to, he has plays in the playbook for this, man. He did it last year. He did it this year against the Browns as well. So when he's facing these teams that are going to be getting more pressure on you, he has the schemes to keep the ball in his offense's hands at the very least and limit the mistakes, maintain possession. He knows how to deal with that. He knows how to do that. And that was the game that he played against that Buffalo team. So against a far superior Buffalo team last year. In a primetime game like this, Buffalo was in a spot where they were overlooking the Giants. Very similar to this game, actually. And Daboll was able to do that. And like I said, the Giants hardly scored anything, but neither did the Bills. And the Giants had Tyrod Taylor in that game last year. They're not Jones. So that's true. So Taylor, a little bit quicker with his feet, can get out of some of those pressure situations more than Jones can. Fine. That's true. But still, maybe their offense, but Tyrod Taylor's the weaker of the two quarterbacks at the very least. So maybe the Giants' offense will be able to do a little bit more with Jones in there than what they did with Taylor there. But that was a game where the Giants should have had no business being in that game, and they were in it basically until the end. They were in Buffalo territory near the end with a chance to potentially win the game. They didn't quite get into field goal range at the end there, and I think they only lost the game. Or no, they needed a touchdown. That's why. I think they were in field goal range. They needed a touchdown and lost like 14-9. So whatever. And then the Giants, with the other game that they were doing a lot of those quick dropbacks. Like I said, was against this Browns defense. The Browns defense is still good, even though the offense has been playing miserably. But they look better with famous Jameis in there. So we may see a Browns run towards the later half of the season here. But the Giants, I believe the Giants beat the Browns, right? The Browns were a big favorite at home, and the Giants beat them, if I'm not mistaken. I think that happened. I don't even remember. But and that was with another one of these day ball game plans. Get the ball out quick. That's what we're going to do here. The Steelers run a lot of cover 3 on defense as well, and Jones does better against cover 3 than he does against other zone defenses that tend to give him problems. But the specific zone pass defense that the Steelers run is not as effective against Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, he should be able to maybe do something against this cover 3 scheme. Pittsburgh, their defense is better against the run than it is against the pass. So the Giants, their strength on offense, believe it or not, is actually more their passing, and that matches up against the weakness of Pittsburgh. Even though I know they have a pass rush, but their pass coverage isn't as good. Their rushing, their run defense and their pass and their blitzing are what are their strengths on defense. So the Giants actually may match up decently against those defensive schemes. Excuse me. And Daniel Jones has also been better on the road. I mean, look at the Giants. They only have 2 wins this season. Yeah, well, they both came on the road. In that Cleveland game I just mentioned, it's very similar to this. In that Seattle game. So in games where these teams are thinking, oh, the Giants, this is going to be easy. We'll just show up and beat them at home. That hasn't really been the case. Giants are 2-1 in road games, and in the one loss, that was because they lost their kicker, Gano, and that was the difference in the game. They almost won at Washington. So the Giants have been way better on the road than at home, and Daniel Jones has yet to throw an interception on the road as well. So the Giants have been significantly better on the road than at home for whatever reason as well. So that's what we got here as well. So I know the Giants do have that big divisional game up next against Washington, which is revenge, but I don't think they're gonna overlook a 5-2 Steeler team on Monday night coming off 2 horrible offensive performances. The Giants, after something like that, Monday night in Pittsburgh, I think you're going to bring some focus. And like I also said, this line is way too high. I mean, with the way the Steeler offense has been playing, they have absolutely no business laying this many points, really, against any NFL team, in my opinion. I mean, if you take out those last 2 games where these are just a lot of offensive turnovers in both these games, prior to games against the Raiders and the Jets, the Steelers had not put up more than 24 points in any of the prior games. Granted, it was with Justin Fields, but still, Steelers' offense had been struggling mightily. And as far as covering a number like this, yeah, they had done it in those 3 games, but it was mostly because their defense was completely holding the offense down. And yeah, I know maybe this game will be very similar to that, and Pittsburgh will wind up winning in a similar game. Yeah, maybe they'll win 18-10 again like this. It is certainly possible. It looks like that type of game, but I'm banking on the Giants hanging around in there. So Giants is going to actually wind up being a play for me. And that's it. That's going to do it for me, man. Thanks for hanging out. Those 2 plays one more time are Orlando -6.5 in the NBA to kick that off, and New York Giants +6.5 or +6, whatever you can get out there now. It's going to do it for me. We're back, baby. Let's continue this nice run that I've been on recently. Let's get some wins. Let's do it. Have a good day, everybody. Have a good evening. Enjoy the games. Go check out Tower Gang, obviously. Go check out the Bohemian Grove episode, which is up on Rumble. Will be up on the other platforms likely today or tonight, I would say. So go check that out. Check us out Wednesday. We should be back with another regular mainline episode there. Patreon.com/Tower Gang to throw us some support. And you get live pre-show, post-show, bonus content. You get to hang out in a Telegram with us. Have a good one, guys. Oh, we get a comment right near the end. Oh, sorry, I missed these comments. I didn't see any notifications that there were comments. What's up, guys? Jay Foot, thanks for hanging out. Scott, thank you, man. You like Bro Grove? I'm glad to hear it, man. Zach, hell yeah, Bro Grove. Thanks for hanging out, guys. I'm sorry I missed all the comments because StreamYard puts like a little notification bubble and it didn't show up for some reason this time. I apologize, but I got you guys in there at the end. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Have a good one. Peace out.